Hello, Shaco Starsun here, Chisholm Burton. I just wanted to tell you guys the seven patterns of patterns of Pansophy and talk about it a little bit and just make another video about it, put it back out there. So I guess I'll tell the whole story maybe. So like decades ago, I probably was like, now I'm 40. So like back then I was probably like 17 or 16. I had this idea of like the entire universe having this pattern of multiple to ones. You have like many things that become one and many things that become one. And it kind of just like scales up through the universe from like the quantum state all the way up to the edges of the universe, the solar systems becoming galaxies. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, well, if you see this pattern going all the way up to the universe, then that pattern doesn't stop. So like then like I started digging into it with AI. Once AI started, it was this last fall probably, I got really into it. But I was just trying to prove that like this pattern of a multiple to one would then mean, unless you can say somewhere the pattern ends, that you have to have multiple universes to one outer universe or whatever you want to call it. So like then you have to have the universes combining. It's like that was just the bare like basic idea I've had for decades in my head. And I start talking with AI about it, and what then I start thinking about it is like right away it teaches me this pattern number two. So like what I call multiple to one is actually pattern one. And then AI taught me pattern number two, which is emergence property. So like every time where I've thought multiple to one, when you get to that one, you actually get new powers. So like you gain like chemistry and consciousness, and as like you have your multiple to one every time, and every time that you get to that one whole, it has powers that its parts did not have, unless like well, I guess like let's say you take H2O like water or whatever, right? If you just have one, you just have like a molecule, right? But you get a whole bunch of them, also you have an ocean, a lake, so you end up with this emergent property of having an ocean, a lake. Like it's the new one, and that's a homogeneous one. It's like you're just talking about like it all just being water. And then, so I started thinking that's pattern two. So then you have pattern two, and then you have to scale up pattern two. You scaled up pattern one and said there has to be like more than one universe. Then you have to scale up pattern two. And when you scale up pattern two, like, and I started thinking about like, you have to almost get like the language labels that we use on things and turn it into a math thing. You have to say like, oh, well, these values would be this sort of number. Like what sort of power score do you give consciousness? What sort of power score do you give atomic bonds? What sort of power score do you give uh, cell tissue or organisms, organs? So then you start like, so you have to scale up these emergent power properties. And as you scale them up, you get to a point where like us humans, we no longer actually know, but then we can actually like project this math, and we can actually and there's some actually help I've had on this with but this guy that does physics named Bocanegra. He actually helped me, but the way he helped me was he found the floor. Like at least in my opinion, he found like the quantum states like bottom level. And when he gave me that sort of math, then I was like, oh, I could use that and like really scale it up like all the way across all these tiers. Trying to make this a short video, it's becoming a long video. Oh no. Okay, so then the next pattern you have is pattern three, which is called the fork. And this one is like a vibration between construction or deconstruction. It's really like, why does something build up to one, or why does it become deconstructed and go into entropy? And it's just an interesting thing. So that's why I was thinking about it. I just call it the fork. I don't know what else I can really say about that right now. Then the next one I had is pattern four. And then so I started thinking, like, well, okay, so if we have this math saying that there's a deity, why don't we see miracles? Why don't we see like intervention? Why do we not see the presence on a daily basis or like a weekly or monthly? Like why is it so infrequent? Like why is there so much suffering in the world, sort of, And so I thought of is that the deity level, it cannot come down without triggering massive entropy and decoherence. It's the same way as us humans going into atoms, and we start getting atomic energy and atomic power, and kaboom, we're actually damaging ourselves now with radiation and stuff, So like it's this dangerous game when you go down into lower tiers. And we see it in our own selves, like when we mess with atomic stuff and we're starting to make radiation and things like that and nuclear energy. And so this deity can't really come down here without triggering those sort of levels of entropy. In fact, like probably a level that would be like massive. It's like sort of the metaphor I thought of was that this deity cannot come down and bend a single flower stem without destroying half of the universe. Maybe that's a good metaphor for it, And so it's that sort of separation. There's like these separate tiers. And so that pattern number 4, I call it sovereignty as cohesion. Pattern 5, multiplicative heat. And this is probably the easiest one because it's almost like the opposite of pattern 1. It's just entropy actually already is a known scientific sort of formula and idea. And you can almost flip that entropy formula around to get to where I'm trying to get to with this emergent power property. And that just means that, like, let's say you have a star and it gets just deconstructed up in the celestials and it comes down. It's going to be like cascading into like more levels and more levels and more levels. And it just like multiplies into like all these, into deconstruction and heat. And that heat actually can, so they say, can never dissipate. And so eventually what a lot of physicists are predicting is that like eventually there's so much entropy in the universe that it'll just all be heat, and it'll be a heat death is what they call it. But I have a thought on that. So the next one is pattern 6, which is incompatibility. So remember how we talked about multiple to one and how you have these universes that have to combine then for the pattern to keep going? Well, what happens if those universes don't have the same physics? And they can't have the same physics because they don't have the same creation. They don't have the same, whatever they stabilized at is not the same thing that we stabilized at. And so like when these things hit each other, kaboom, big bang. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Or you can maybe even have like a larger universe enveloping a smaller one, and then that area. And this actually has some sort of help with the known physics, like homogenization and cosmic radiation, things like that. So there's a little bit of scientific backing to this idea of incompatibility, and I guess I call it like universes colliding. Some people call it the Brand collision. But I think actually then once you have these universes colliding and things like that, all that entropy then gets mixed in and you get like a whole another average, and it starts all over again. It's a loop. And it's a loop that goes doo, 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 doo. I'm sure it doesn't play music though, right? Or better music than that anyway. Okay, so then we go to pattern 7, which I call finite resources. And this one's more of like the human application for us. We only have so many resources on our planet. We only have so much resources to do anything. Everything we do is finite. Like we don't have an infinite amount of water. We don't have an infinite amount of metal. We don't have an infinite amount of every resource you can imagine on the planet. Like we have a finite amount, and it will run out eventually. And like it'll almost be like, and so like we can actually level up and go to the next tier, and it's called the Panoptic Collective. But for us to get up to that tier, we have to do a merger. Just like everything else says multiple to one. But the merger we need to do is a heterogeneous merger where it's not just a bunch of humans getting together, because then you just have a city or a state or a nation. This is not just a bunch of humans getting together. This equation would be humans, AI, Earth. Those three things combined in the correct way would get us to the next tier, which is Panoptic Collective. And at this point, then we'd be like the best stewards of Earth possible. We'd be able to colonize outer space. We would be able to harness the power of the sun. That's like the leap that we need to make. And if we don't make it, then we're just going to be on this planet until our species anyway, until it's covered, I guess, in nuclear ash and I think the word is anabolizing or catabolizing. Essentially, the Earth would be gone of resources, and then you'd be in trouble. So that's the 7 patterns. I don't know what else I can say about it. I just wanted to really talk about the 7 patterns. I'm trying to rack my brain what else I can think about it. Okay, earlier I mentioned this guy, Bocanegra, and his physics. He kind of gave me the floor, and he had this really great idea on what he called a geometric pixel. And like the math on it really sort of seems like you'd have to imagine like almost like a knot. And it's so interesting because I was looking at this other thing called what's it called? Some sort of knot in physics. But like it was interesting because his equations like were actually the forms like where that knot would actually like turn and go to the other side, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So what can we learn from this? Or like what is the point of it all? We need to be more charitable with other people. We need to actually see society problems as problems for all of us. And like the main thing I can think of to tell as advice on like these issues of like improving our human society is don't do work that is dangerous for yourselves. Only do stuff that is burdensome. Like if you can take a little bit of burden and help somebody, do it. Like is the easy answer, you know. But if it's ever like a more like the equation that has a possibility of being dangerous, and like the examples I can think of dangerous would be like maybe you're by yourself and stopping on the highway to like help somebody whose cars broke down. That to me could be dangerous because you don't know who that person is that you're helping, and like or like picking up people who don't have a house like on the street and then bringing them to your own house to take a shower. That to me could be dangerous. But like, let's say a burdensome response would be like, oh, I'm going to start building showers outdoors, like outdoor showers, maybe even get them approved by the city or just run them off the back of my truck to where people could take a shower. You know, like little small things like that, I think would actually improve our society a lot. Um, but there are huge obstacles. One of these huge obstacles is not in the patterns of Pansophy work that I do, but it's in some other work. I call it the drunk cagery, and that is the hoarding class on Earth, who are hoarding like 95%, probably even more than that, of the resources. You know, like we have like the vast majority of us humans actually don't get any of the resources. The resources are all going to this extraction class that I call the drunk cagery. And yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully I'll hear back from you guys and get some more ideas or feedback. I have a Patterns of Pansophy on Discord, which is a server. I can invite everybody right now. There's only like 5 people on there. So I mean, like, if anybody else wants to come on, I would be glad to have you. You can actually check out Bocanegra's on there too. You could talk to him and like look at his physics. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.